comprehensive cross-platform coverage of the U.S. market close starts right now.
And right now, we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostic and Scarlet Fu, we're counting you down to the closing bell. Here to help take us beyond the bell, it's our friends Carol Masser, Bailey Lipschultz in today for Tim Stenovic, and a welcome to our audiences in full across all of our Bloomberg platforms. A relatively modest day in equity markets, a relatively modest day, pretty much every asset class out there, Carol, as I think a lot of folks still away on Thanksgiving Day holiday.
Yeah, it feels pretty quiet still. What's interesting, though, and I feel like the equity market kind of meh, but it's interesting to see the movement down in yields once again. We just had Liz Kaplan-McCormick on just talking about, could it be that this is, we're growing into an environment where maybe yields have peaked, dare we say, and that it's quite a turnaround for investors in the U.S. Treasury trade.
Yeah, we've got some economic data on the horizon, Jay Powell at the end of the week, but just looking at the volume, about 15% below what's been average over the last 100 days on the S&P 500. Larger drop-off when it comes to the Dow. So to your point, Romaine, feels like people extending those Thanksgiving holidays ahead of what could be a busier week.
Yeah, you have a fourth straight day of the S&P and the NASDAQ moving less than 0.5%. Maybe earnings will shake that up a little bit.
I do wonder, too, about economic conditions. I mean, again, on a day where you're seeing a lot of kind of industrial stocks and a lot of kind of the, the real economy, if you will, kind of stocks moving lower, makes you wonder kind of what this market is pricing in. I mean, the biggest movers today are what? A lot of retailers.
Yeah.
Domino's Pizza.
I had to look up the tickers. That's how kind of a day it was when it comes to gainers.
That's exciting.
Well, it should be fun. We're going to have fun with Carol as she tries to walk us through some of the big movers on the day, which I'm sure should be interesting. Nevertheless, we get the closing bells here in New York. Modest losses across the board for all of the major indices, with the Dow down about 0.2% here on the day. The S&P down by a similar amount. The NASDAQ Composite down by about 0.1%. And the Russell 2000 down by 0.3%. And I should point out that the biggest laggard in terms of the big indices out there are Dow Transports, which dropped 1.3% on the day.
All right, so interesting. S&P 500, just looking at the breakdown, about 174 to the upside. Scarlett, we've got 326 to the downside, 3 unchanged. So a little bit safe to say more of a negative tone or risk-off tone when it comes to the big cap names.
Yeah, definitely things are skewed to the downside. You look at the industry groups in the S&P 500. Romaine, you mentioned the Dow Transports. The transportation index in the S&P 500 was the biggest decliner, off 1.6%. So that's railroad companies and airlines. Pharma is off by 0.8%. Food, beverage, and tobacco down 0.5%. Among the gainers, not a lot of exciting groups here. Real estate investment trusts up slightly. Retailers up by 1/3 of 1%. I mean, barely up at that point. And autos and components leading up the rear.
All right, folks, so let's get to the individual gainers.
Oh,
Da-da-da-da, drum roll, please. Affirm Holdings. You're going to like these, actually, Romaine. You're going to be pretty happy.
Yeah.
Up almost 16% at its highs today, finishing the day with about a 12% gain. We were just talking with Poonam Goyal of Bloomberg Intelligence about all the shoppers that are out there, about the rise, both on Black Friday and Cyber Monday, this
Northern Trust has the expertise that I need.
Deep expertise.
They give me access to experts with the exact skill set I need.
So I can meet the ambitions I have for my wealth.
That's why I work with Northern Trust. Northern Trust, for where wealth goes next.
Number 3 gainer in the S&P 500, Crown Castle.
Yeah, I'm
You're
into
gonna
this
like
story.
this.
Yeah.
I know you are. 3.5% higher. You know what they do, right?
Yeah, it's like cell phone towers, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? Something we just kind of take for granted, right, that this stuff all kind of works. But they actually do it, the infrastructure to support all of our cell service. Well, top of the S&P 500, Elliott Investment Management, they've been pretty busy confirming a $2 billion position in the company, sent a letter to the board. They want significant leadership changes. This is about a $47 billion market cap company, so we'll keep an eye on that one. And Domino's, you mentioned it. It's not just because I love some pizza. Number 1 gainer in the S&P 500, Cowen raising its price target on the stock to $430 from $410. Stock closing at $387 today. Bullish on Domino's U.S. turnaround as it models above consensus 2025 estimates. No, I kind of like artisanal pizza. I like a really thin crust. I like it burnt. I like a coal oven.
Oh, that sounds really good.
Right?
Okay.
I know. Are we all hungry now? But I do like pizza. Like if you're in a crunch and you're in a car, a little Happy Meal or a little Domino's, it'll work.
Yeah, I'm more of a fan of the Detroit style. There's a place by my old apartment that made a nice Detroit style pie. But looking at some of the worst performers, GE Healthcare among the bottom 5 performers in the S&P 500. This coming after UBS downgraded it to a sell rating. Remember, less than 10% of ratings on Wall Street are a sell equivalent. So when someone comes out outright bearish, that can drive shares to drop. GE Healthcare having its worst sell-off since May. Basis of the downgrade really focusing on valuation, a softer order trajectory, and tough comparable sales for the year ahead. So uncertainty for what had been one of the better performing spin-offs of the last 18 months. Another stock underperforming after an analyst downgrade, Lucid Group. This coming after Needham cut the stock to hold from buy, saying it's less optimistic about its ability to license its EV technology, saying it doesn't have faith in near-term demand. Shares down nearly 60% in the last year.
I wonder how much of this, though, too, is also just about just EVs overall, just kind of seeing depression. I mean, you saw the downdraft today in Fisker. And then I was even looking at like the lithium companies that have really been the big beneficiaries, and they dropped a lot today. I think Albemarle, where were they down? 6% on the day.
Yeah, worst performer in the S&P, Romaine, and that does seem to be kind of the issues and concerns around EVs playing out. Maybe there won't be the demand for a pull forward in demand as everyone kind of swaps out their
they're putting out the Cybertruck this week.
Yeah.
Did you get one?
I did not.
Is that going to happen, though? Is that really going to happen?
I mean, Elon Musk said it would.
There's a
happen,
Cyber
so why shouldn't I
Monday deal
believe?
on that puppy?
He's never lied.
Buy one, get one free?
No, never.
I just wish I had a bigger trunk space. I don't know if it was real, but I saw something. I saw a meme on X that showed it couldn't even hold a bicycle.
I
Which
saw
don't
that
know.
too. But I never know what to believe on the internet now.
Exactly. If you have a Cybertruck that looks like it's from a futuristic movie, at least have a real truck.
Better would actually be able to like tote a bicycle.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, there you go. I don't know. There are no bicycles in the apocalypse, Bailey. What else you got?
Well, we got to be out running it. One thing to keep in mind: one of the worst performers among smaller companies, iRobot, dropping more than 15%, biggest drop since January 2021. This coming after its $1.4 billion sale to Amazon received a EU warning on competition, warning that Roomba maker deal could hurt the market for robot vacuum cleaners. I don't know if you have one of those, Romaine, but apparently Amazon will be could be at risk of promoting
They're
their
fun
own
for
product.
the pets in the house.
Well, not my dog. She would tear that thing apart. That would last about 2 days here. We are, believe it or not, still in earnings season. Zscaler, the cybersecurity company, announcing earnings right now. Shares down in the after-hour session here. Here are your numbers here. For the fiscal first quarter, revenue did beat $496.7 million. That was slightly above street estimates, as was EPS, which came in at 67 cents, and the street was looking at about 49 cents a share. But here seems to be the issue here. The street was looking for a bump up in the forecast, and that forecast is relatively staying the same. The company saying it sees full year calculated billings in that range that it had previously given of about 2.52 to 2.56 billion. The company also saying full year EPS will be at 245 to 248. That's actually slightly higher than the range it had given before here. But it looks like on the revenue side here, looks like a little bit of stasis, and I think that might cause a little bit of concern given that billings growth for this company have been tracking at above 30%.
Yeah, you wonder if there's an overall theme to be drawn from these cybersecurity companies, because Fortinet had really disappointed investors, and then Palo Alto Networks came in, and yes, it lowered its estimates for the full year, but there's the sense that it's in a better position than Fortinet. So the sentiment on this group was already fairly negative.
And I think Bloomberg Intelligence put out a great note on this idea of a lot of clients, I should say, the enterprise clients looking to consolidate their software products, and that this could actually come at the expense of some of these standalone companies like a Zscaler or like a Okta, et cetera.
Yeah, that really makes sense, right?
Microsoft and Salesforce and those types of things.
Yeah, you think about all the different programs, right, and platforms that they're doing, and then at some point they've got to kind of consolidation make some sense. The one thing I will say about Zscaler, they've been on a tear. They're up 71% this year. About 6% of the outstanding of the float is shorted, and it's quite a pricey valuation. So this disappointment doesn't surprise me to see that kind of the shares coming down, because expectations were pretty high on this one, Bailey.
Yeah, I was going to make the same point. When you look at the numbers, they've beaten on EBITDA in 5 of the last 6 quarters, and they actually sold down more than 10% last year. So high bar, obviously, when your stock's ripping, and that does seem like we're playing out one of those price to perfection companies.
And don't forget, tomorrow we get a lot more of these names, including NetApp and CrowdStrike. I think Splunk is also on deck, and then you get kind of those broader software names like a Salesforce, a Workday, et cetera, Snowflake. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how, at least in my mind, corporate spending, enterprise spending is holding up, whether the money is just shifting around or whether it's actually going down.
Yeah, people are cutting back, right? If they're starting to feel a little tight in terms of where they're
Do they
doing their
give Black
spend.
Friday discounts in the enterprise software space?
Yeah, is there Black Friday discounts for B2B?
What is it,
Is that what you're asking?
Rakuten? Does it have a coupon? Like, you know?
Rakuten. Remember that? Remember that big Super Bowl commercial? Yeah, that really took off after that.
I
I
don't
should be
know.
asking for it now.
Somebody's going to hook
How do
me
you
up with
pronounce
that. Isn't it Rakuten? It's Rakuten.
That was the whole commercial.
Oh, is
Telling
it?
people how to
I don't
pronounce it.
remember. You know,
I don't
what can
know.
I tell you?
Jokes over Carol's.
I was too into the nachos. All right, we are going to. What did you say? It's a wrap. Our
We're
cross
running out of time.
Yeah. Our cross-platform coverage, radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Originals, folks. We will see you again tomorrow.